Hi everyone, it's Carolyn Brown here. I'm the co-host of Career Care Package. Naisha's just popped out for a minute because we've had a few ongoing issues with echoing that we haven't been able to resolve. But we're going to push ahead. And today I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Ty to our show number 181. And we're going to be talking about how to make yourself more employable, how to align your skills to what an employer wants. Because I think often that's a missing ingredient. We always talk about that, how important that is in a job search, but I think people really struggle to do that. So we're going to talk about that and a few other career-related job search things. But before I keep waffling on, just like to welcome you to the Career Care Package microphone, Ty.
Thank you. Thanks for the warm welcome, and 181 episodes already in. Congratulations.
Thank you. We're steaming towards 100, but I don't think we're going to get there before the end of the year. So, 200 episodes, not 100. We passed that milestone a while back. Great place to start to give people some context would be for you to tell people about the work that you do in supporting people find meaningful careers and meaningful jobs.
Yeah, so a little bit of what I do is I help people get the job that they deserve. And this is using my background or my knowledge from 13 years of recruitment experience. I've interviewed over 10,000 people.
Wow.
And yeah, I have. I've done a lot of interviews over that 13 years. Yeah. Agency world, it's non-stop interviews.
Yeah.
Face-to-face, over the phone. And then I moved internal recruitment as well. But essentially what I help people do is there's two types of clients that come to see me. One, the first client is they want to position themselves properly to that next job. It could be because they just want a job. It could be because they're in a job and they want a better job. So it's about positioning themselves to be that number one or that top applicant. And for myself, I've been in that corporate space, that corporate recruitment world. I'm all about finding the best of the best. So it's realigning them to be that. The second part I do is pivoting. So it's understanding where people want to pivot to. So if it needs to be from they want to pivot up into a more senior position, they want to go into a different industry, they want to go into a different field of career, that I help then shape them, so shape the person themselves from every element to match to the job that they want.
Yeah. It's fantastic work that you do, because I think it's well needed, particularly because I think you have to be an expert in finding a job to find a good job. And you can be in what you do for 10 years or 15 years and come out into the marketplace for the very first time and be quite lost. But one of the things I think the theme of what we wanted to talk about today was that kind of missing link. So how do you align your skills to what an employer wants, and why do you think people find that difficult?
Yeah, very good question. It is a missing link, actually. And if you think about why you go to school or you go to get a qualification, is because you want some sort of direction or results from a particular job or career path, right? And you're looking for that to give you that result or that outcome that you're after. Now, what happens is people want a particular job or career or outcome. However, they don't realize what that person needs to be to make them the most successful. So it is about getting you to change or transform who you want to become. So the reason why a lot of people are failing, and why I see so many people and I reject so many people, because is that they utilize what they know, who they are, where they're at, to try to get to another stage of life or another stage in their career or even a transition, whatever it is, without changing themselves. So for an example, let's say if you're a factory worker, you work really hard in a factory, you're a great worker, etc. And then all of a sudden you want to become a work in an office, a corporate job, right? And you then use your skills as a factory worker, the way that you speak, the way that you act, the way that you think, etc., and apply for a corporate job. What's the likelihood of you getting the job? Not.
Yeah. I was wondering whether that was a rhetorical question. Yeah, I said, yeah, I think I absolutely see your point. You're coming from the direction that you are versus understanding, I suppose, the gap and what the employer's really looking for. I think a lot of people, yeah, like I said, they do struggle with that. Why do you think people struggle? Why do you think people don't make the leap or the link?
That's because they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
Right. So let's just say, so I'll give you an example. Had a client who had been a bit of a 2IC, been a bit of a team leader in her role, and she wanted to move into the next stage in her career, which is a team leader. And she came to me and said, Ty, yep, I'm applying for this job, and I feel like I'm ready. And I said, okay, great. Let's talk about it. Let's look at what you've done. And everything that she spoke to me, the way that she spoke, everything that was put on paper in her resume, I said, well, you want to become a team leader, but everything you talked about was doing the job, doing your work, nothing to do with team leading at all. So why would I hire you if you're not showcasing the relevant skills and the relevant knowledge that I'm looking for? And then she goes, I didn't realize. So it's about positioning you to become who you want to be, and which means the language that you can use is going to change. The technical terms that you're going to use is going to change depending on the type of job, the type of industry as well, and the type of level. The type of thinking that you are going to need to focus on is going to change, because a worker versus an executive or leader thinks totally different. They've got very different problems that they need to address at those levels. And the reason why people struggle is because they don't know how to address those problems.
Yeah. I love what you said about, you don't know what you don't know. I mean, you can have this kind of ambition, but it may not even be the right ambition for you. In some instances, like, when you start out your career, you're like, yeah, I'd love to be a manager or whatever, but without actually knowing, A, what that involves, and B, whether you'd enjoy it. How do you suggest people get that information? Because, if you apply for these, you might be completely missing the mark when you apply for jobs, and quite often you don't get feedback. So if you apply to an ATS system, you might just get a standard note back in your email, or if you go for a job with a recruiter, you may not hear back. So how do you, understand what the gap is? What's the best way to do that, do you think?
This is where I would say, look, I would hope to say the qualifications do give you that, but unfortunately qualifications get you into an entry-level job. And I'll give you a perfect example in terms of, maybe I'll give you actually my story in terms of what happened to me. And I was a senior recruitment partner for a company, been there for 3.5 years, had the best results, had the best feedback from all my stakeholders. I could do the job with my eyes closed, essentially. Now a manager role came up, and what had happened, I was like, okay, I think I'm in the best position to apply for this. And everyone else agreed, all my team agreed, because I was the most senior in my team. So I applied for it, and my manager, she reached out to me about a week later and said, Ty, let's have a coffee. So she took me upstairs. We had a coffee, because we had a coffee store on our second level floor. And she sat down and she looked very serious. And I was thinking, what the hell's going on here? Why is she so serious? Yeah. And she said, about your application, Ty, we're not going to consider you for your application.
Wow. So, okay. Yep.
I didn't even get an interview.
Yeah.
Okay. My heart sank. I was I was just frozen in that time. And after a little while, I picked up the courage to say, okay, so tell me why. What was the reason? And she said to me, she goes, Ty, you're really good at what you do. You're really, really good at what you do, but what you do at the moment is only 10% of what's required at the next level.
So she was really giving you a gift.
She was. So, at the start, obviously I was a bit angry. I was like, okay, what does that mean? But then when I dug deeper and I realized 90% of the skill sets that I needed for the next role, I wasn't demonstrating. I didn't even focus on it. I was so focused on doing my current job, I wasn't focusing on doing my next job. So what the advice I'm telling everyone here that's watching is that what are the skills that is required for you for that next job that you meet, so that you can do really, really well? Or is it things that you need to actually learn or develop? And then if you need to learn and develop, okay, where do you go out to get that information? So either obviously go to career coaches to give you those insights. Make sure that the career coach understands that industry that you're in, because there's a lot of terminology and a lot of thinking process that most career coaches don't understand that industry. I specialize across pretty much anything corporate, business, IT, finance, operations, you name it, at all levels. I can just speak to someone for a couple of minutes and I can already pinpoint what level they're at and what salary they're at without them telling me. So it's that's where I know they get shocked by.
So you have the gift of being a psychic.
I do, because you interview so many people, you start to hear the same terminology used in certain roles and industries, and the same thinking process, right? And then and because I'm on the other end, looking for the answers, or writing the job descriptions, writing the interview questions, everything, looking at the resumes, I understand all of it.
And do you encourage? I know you've spoken about the benefit of having a coach who can help you with that. What about LinkedIn? How do you encourage people to use LinkedIn in terms of networking to find out that kind of information? Do you encourage people to do that?
Yeah, LinkedIn. Think of it. Look, it doesn't have to be a coach per se that you like one of us. It could be just someone that's a mentor that you can go to and say, "Hey, let me get into your mind of what you do in your role." And that person needs to be the person in the role that you want to get into. Does it make sense? Because the more you get to understand them and their mindset and what they do, you'll start to see that the way they think is very, very different. And when you understand that you have that awareness of their problems are very different from the ones that you think are the problems, you'll start to realize that how do your skills link to those problems? Because remember, we are paid by the problems that we solve. So if you can't solve a particular problem, then you're no use to the company. So you can't ask for that $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 salary, as an example. So it's all about value based and understanding where the value is, so that you can actually you can then relate it back to the employer, because employers look at it from what is it that you do and then what's the output. Now the key part to this is that the higher the level you go, the more output, or the output that you need to deliver. So you need to deliver at least 3 times your salary if you're to be worth something. Does it make sense? If you're
absolutely.
So if you're just making enough money for them to pay your wages, then you're not helping the company grow.
Yeah. So it looks like Naish is trying to come back in the show. Bear with me for a second. I can't add him to the stream just yet. Okay. What are you seeing around COVID? Do you think employers are asking for different skill sets in this environment or post this environment?
Yeah, it is. So what I've seen is there's going to be companies now that are booming and they're growing, and the roles hasn't changed as such. It's just that now what I've noticed is that there's the people that now are starting to have to look for jobs, and they've been in the same position for years and years and years, and then had to look for a job for the last 10 years or more sometimes, right? Is that they're struggling to say, okay, how do now my skills are relevant to a new industry? That's the biggest one that I always hear about. How's my skills are relevant? Or how do I pivot and position myself to make myself be seen as relevant to these new roles or industries as well? So what it's done is it's actually forced people to start to rethink about, okay, how am I going to market myself out there? How do I package and market myself in a way that is going to stand out, that's going to appeal to employers, and it's going to say, hey, I'm good at what I do and I'm worth reaching out to. So that's what I've seen what COVID's done now. And as companies now are, even what they're doing is they're looking for multi-skilled. During this time, I've also known is that yes, you can do one role, but if you can showcase that you can do a bit more of another role or understand another area as well, that is going to add the value, like make you so much more valuable, much more sought after. Yeah,
it's been interesting. I think one of the observations, from a business perspective, but you can apply it equally to looking for a job, and I have seen it in that context as well, is that idea that, you have a portfolio career. So you've got something and maybe something on the side, or, you've got something else that you could do if the floor fell out of your world, in terms of, basically what happened with COVID. So, it's that kind of like side hustle becomes a main hustle, becomes a side hustle type thing again. But there's also that level, I think, of creativity, understanding, and what things get generated when you're out of your comfort zone or you're doing something differently. You get more ideas, you get more contacts, you think more clearly and more objectively sometimes as well. So it kind of has that added benefit. Were you sort of seeing a lot of that?
I've seen both sides of the coin. So I guess I've seen more of the ones that are the less clarity. So I'll give you a perfect example. I had a client call up and say, Ty, I want to study something. Because she used to do more of like an analyst role, and then she got made redundant due to COVID. And then what happened was now she's doing more of an admin role. So she she stepped down in roles, in levels. And she said, Ty, I'm going to start looking to study something a bit more creative, because I used to enjoy that when I was younger, right? Similar to what you said, something a bit creative. And I said, okay, you know what? So she signed up to something creative, a creative course. And I said, okay, so why did you do that? She goes, I used to enjoy it. Okay. And I said, okay, fair enough. Now, I just asked a couple of questions, and I said, did you enjoy the job that you were previously in? Yeah, that was the first question. And she said, yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I said, well, if you weren't made redundant, would you have stayed? And she said, yeah, I definitely would have stayed. I wouldn't have left. I really enjoyed it. So what you really enjoy is what you were doing previously. But because she wasn't sure how to position herself, so what had happened was she naturally moved up into that position. She got promoted within. So now that she was made redundant, she couldn't get that same position because she never had to interview for it. Does that make sense? She never had to position herself for it. She had to show through her worth through the work that she did. So there's two ways of where I say that you can position or make yourself more valuable. One is through your work. So if I can physically show you the good work that I do in the industry, you go, Ty, that's a great job. You're really good at what you do. You get promoted, etc. Right? Now, the other way that you can do that, to get promoted, is through your words. So it's either your work or your words. Because in an interview, in your resume, in everything that you do, it's through communication. That's how you get hired. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't focus on that. They don't focus on the way that they deliver their message. on what they do. They don't even realize the words that they're using plays a huge part in someone assessing their value. Either it lowers their value or it increases their value. So the words that they're using are either very generic or very low. It's lowering their status and their value. So I deep dive into those sort of things.
I think it's a fascinating area because, you know, what I find with some of the more senior people that I work with is, you know, they might come with a resume that has, and they might have the words great teamwork skills.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I see it all the time. Yeah.
But I think part of it is that, you know, there's that subconscious competent thing or unconsciously competent thing. So, you know, you're so good at it, you don't think about it. You don't think about how to express it. And also I think people in general, you know, aren't that self-aware until they need to be, like, you know, perhaps you when you are looking for your managerial role, and then, you know, having the skill to dig deep and then be able to describe it in a way that makes people take notice. I think there's a real skill in that, and I like how you've put it in terms of the words, because it, you know, it's absolutely a reflection of all of those things, I think.
It is definitely, it's the words. So that's why I talk about negotiating without even, you know, negotiating your salary without even having to negotiate. Pretty much, they give you the higher salary because you've already demonstrated through the way that you speak that you're worth more. So you can negotiate without negotiating. You can actually get a much higher increase in salary without them telling them that, because they already, in their mind, you're embedded
Ditched
a
you
picture.
Somewhere.
Yeah, you've embedded a picture, an image of who you are, and then they've said, okay, this person, you are worth so much more. I'm willing to pay you the top you know, pay grade, for example.
Yeah. So what are some of your best tips on, I guess, you know, increasing your confidence and projecting what you want to, you know, project in interview? What are some of the best tips that you give people around that?
Yep. Okay. So it starts with your foundation of what you believe. And this is where a lot of coaches, etc., say you got to change your resume, and that's where you start, right? It's, if you think about it, your resume is a reflection of who you are. So I always build the person within first, because I remember this first client that I coached 5 years ago, and her name was Rachel, and I remember she was going for quite a senior role, and she wanted resume done and interview coaching, which I did. And she went for this position, and then she went past the first round, went to the second round, and she was pretty stoked. Went to the third round, and at the third round, only up against one other person. And at that round, she just missed out because the other person had a bit more of a knowledge around that industry, and she felt devastated. She thought it was herself that was the problem, and what that made me do was that I realized that I have to build the foundation of people, because if you believe who you are and what you can do, what you can offer, doesn't matter if there's knockbacks, there's going to always be opportunities. Does it make sense? And it's understanding how to use those knockbacks to go, okay, I'm waiting for the right opportunity to come. So it is about building your belief, internal belief, in terms of, okay, this is the value that I can offer. I know what I'm worth, and I know how to articulate it, and I know my value. Because when you demonstrate it to people, they believe you, right? So think of it as interviews are, it's you getting them to believe who you are and buy into yourself, right? That's the whole purpose of getting the job, is that they buy into you as a person. Now, the only way for someone to buy into you as a person is that you have to believe in yourself first. And then that shines out.
It's so much easier said than done. And, you know, I often reflect back through my life and go, if I just had a bit more self-belief,
Yep.
Imagine what you could do with that, like just really imagine what you could achieve with that. And sometimes, like, I don't know if that there's a silver bullet to getting that sometimes. I mean, you can have great people that believe in you probably more than you do yourself.
There is. It's always the case.
You can, numerous times I'm just talking about myself now, just to give people an example. I've, looked at the results that I've delivered and gone, yeah, that's great. But often it's like you keep needing to reinforce that, that level of self-belief. So, and I guess like when you're looking for a job, we always go from pain, not towards pleasure. So often it's you've been made redundant or you've lost your job or you just can't stand it anymore and you're going to quit. So you're not in the greatest place emotionally to have that kind of self-belief.
Yeah.
What are your tips around, and I understand working with a coach like you would obviously help, but what are your tips around, rebuilding that level of self-confidence and self-belief?
Yeah. Okay. So what employers want, first off, is it's a value exchange. They're paying you money, for you to then give them something in return. So there's six types of value exchange, but all of them linked to some sort of that links to money. So if you can make a company profitable, then you're valuable, because if the company does not make money, there's no company. So that's how you see it. So you adding skills in some sort of way that adds back to the commercial or the value to the business. So look at your skills, and a lot of people, this is where I speak to a lot of people, is that they go, Ty, I'm good at everything. Exactly right. I've got so many years experience. I'm good at this, I'm good at this, I'm good at this. So, and what I tell them is that if you're just average at everything. That's what I tell them. Because it is true. How can you be good at everything, right? Yeah. So it's all about understanding, siloing yourself to 3 to 5 key areas that you bring value in. And this, a lot of people talk about your USPs, your elevator pitch, or it is about positioning who you are, because the first question people ask is, tell me about yourself. And what they really mean is, tell me what is it that you've done that adds value, can be adding value to us. So it's about understanding those 3 to 5 value points at a very, very high and strategic level, so that it's explaining the value that you add. And this is where so many people go wrong, is that they talk about the how they add value. But when you talk about how, you bore people.
Yeah.
So when you explain something that you do, and it bores people. So they want to know what's in it for me. So start to understand your value offering in terms of how you can benefit the potential employer, that job, that market, whatever it is. So building that first, understanding that. Secondly, change your words. Most people are not even they don't even realize what words they've used. When I ask them, okay, how did your interview go, or do you remember the answer that you gave? A lot of people go blank and they go, no, I don't remember. Has that happened to you, Carolyn? Yeah, they don't remember their answer. And you see that when you talk to people, and you see those people, that happens is they just keep on going around in circles, or they give fluffy responses or very generic responses, and they're not really answering the question. Those are the sort of things that happen all the time, honestly. So it's about changing your words so that you are strategically placing emphasis on keywords that are trigger words that clients are wanting here. And these trigger words are on a particular checklist of what clients want, they're looking for. Did this person mention this? Did this person say this? Did this person demonstrate this? All trigger words, because they're speaking with you. And that's the first 2 parts. And then as a third way to increase your confidence and make you more better in articulating who you are, is understanding how to deliver your message. So that is through voice, through voice control, through body language as well, through non-verbal displays, right? And utilizing because we vibrate frequencies, we're giving off energies. shifting your energy levels to a higher state so that you're in a more confident state, not in a low, not confident or stressed or nervous state. It comes off. People read that, and the higher, would you agree, the more higher of a position that you're going for, the more money that you're going for, the more confident that you have to be.
Well, if you don't have that confidence, you don't project that confidence. It doesn't look congruent. So it doesn't really matter what your words say.
That's right.
It's kind of, them being able to see you delivering that, or people believing what you say when you actually deliver it. So I'd like to come back to the other three, but just on that note, like, how do you get people to kind of increase, I don't know, for want of a better word, their vibe, what they project out, and the energy?
Yeah, so there's certain there's certain things that they can do. So there's one from Amy Cuddy. If you look up power poses, she talks about power posing, right? So power posing is a way of you sitting or standing, etc., to show that you're feeling more dominant, which increases your testosterone, which increases your confidence, right? So one is using that that technique. The second is, but that technique takes 2 minutes. It does take a long time to generate, and you can't be there putting your arms like this or something like that, in an interview and going, "Oh yeah, I'm just generating confidence." Right? So, yeah, give me 2 minutes while I'll generate this confidence. It doesn't work that way. So, so you can't do that. The second way is it's about power moves, where you will then give yourself a boost of energy pretty much straight away. And Tony Robbins talks about your peak state to get into that, and he talks about your mind follows your body, so your body reacts in a way, and then your mind goes, okay, I'm feeling this way. So it's getting yourself into that peak state, which is gets you into this more where you're feeling excited, where you feel the energy pumping, your blood rushing. That's what the state you want to get into. And I'll let you know, and also the audience know, that I'm naturally not a good speaker. I'm an introvert, and I'm actually quite shy and nervous, especially when it comes to public speaking or speaking to people in a larger group or environment. And so I like, when I started doing this journey of just presenting and doing coaching, I was presenting in front of people, and for the first 6 months, I used to do it every month, and it was like 5 people showed up, then 10, then 20, then 40, then 50, and then there was way more. It added more, and I've been, I think, 200 something in front of RMIT and CPA Australia, and what I noticed was that my nerves were still there. Didn't matter how many times I was doing it, and I didn't realize why. So I had to then look for a coach to help me understand how to control that, or how to use it and master it in the right way. And it is about practicing and mastering, because public speaking and presenting in a confident way, and especially talking about yourself, if you think about it, talking about yourself and selling yourself is something that we're not taught. If you think about what we're taught to be humble and modest. And who are the ones that tell us to be humble and modest? Who are the ones that first taught us that?
Oh yes, our parents.
Our parents are the ones that tell us, be humble, be modest, don't look arrogant, or don't have that tall poppy syndrome, etc. And it's this that's instilled into us about being humble and modest that affects people to talk about themselves in the best light. So instead of talking about themselves in the best about themselves, they lower themselves so that instead to make themselves so they don't sound too good or too arrogant, like that. That's what they think. Yeah, and it's a psychology that I also have to help to overcome, because that is holding a lot of people back. because they start to then put doubts into the recruiter and employer to say, oh, does this person really know what they're going to do, or are they really confident in what they can bring to us to the table? Yeah, so that's the reason why it's shifting that to be humble and modest. Only you still need to, you still need to be that in life. I'm not saying get rid of it, but when you're talking about yourself in an interview, you need to talk. They want to hear the best out of you. So that's why recruiters go, we want you to perform your best, right? And they'll facilitate that. They'll try, tell us your best examples, tell us your best achievements. Tell us, tell us what have you done that you're so proud of. Those sort of things. So they want you to talk about your best.
It's interesting because I think, some of the reflection work I get my clients to do, and I'm sure you do as well, is get your stories out on the table, around those achievements, and then how you've delivered those. And that kind of then reinforces, what you can actually do, but what you can legitimately say is a strength, I think. If you're doing that kind of brag and chest beating, it doesn't show a level of self-awareness. So that kind of reflection, in whatever way you want to do it, helps you talk about the things that you can legitimately say and confidently say that you could actually deliver to the next employer, I think.
Yeah. Oh, look, you can say anything. You can say, I helped generate $1 million for my last job. You can say that, and then that's going to straight away, get the employer saying, okay, so, but how?
How did you do that?
How did you do it, right? Yeah. So remember, you get paid by the way you think. Yeah. So if you can explain your thought process and how you got to an outcome, they go, okay, that makes sense. And then what they're doing is they're paying for your IP, your knowledge, right, in terms of what you know, to deliver what you need to deliver. So so what I teach is that if you want to increase your salary, if you want to get further in life, it get paid by the way you think. And the best example is if I say to you, let's say, I want Mark Zuckerberg to create an app for me. Yeah, and I go, hey Mark, I'm willing to pay you X amount of millions of dollars to create an app for me. And he goes, yep, Ty, great, we can do that. Now, do you think Mark is going to be the one that's going there and going to be coding the app for me? He isn't, right? He's not going to go there and physically code. He's going to think about, okay, what it's going to look like from a strategic point of view, how the app's going to look like, and tell his developers this is what it needs to be done. And you do it. So you get paid by the way you think. And a lot of people don't focus on that. They focus on what they do, not the way they think. Yeah.
Absolutely. What do you think will be in demand post-COVID skills-wise? Have you got a sense of what's emerging and that type of thing?
Yeah. Well, really good question, because everything's about automation. And if you think about it, all the manual tasks, all the tasks that are repetitive, remember, this is the stuff that you're doing day in and day out that can be replaced by a robot. Is forcing people to go and shift away from that manual, old school, you're working in the factory and you just do the same thing over and over and get paid for it. Shifting that focus to more into the soft skills in terms of pushing people to be more creative, pushing people to be better leaders, so that, because you still need people to follow, pushing people to increase the way that we experience life. So customer experience, user experience is massive these days, right? Because we want to enjoy the experience. Even opening a box of a product these days, it's all about the experience, right? So these skills is going to be is totally shifting the way that we operate and we work. So it's understanding, and that's why I talk about the way you think is what you're going to get paid for, not by what you do, because the tasks that you do will be replaced by robots, which is already has been most of the case, right? And have someone.
Sorry, you froze a little bit there, but that's okay. If you've got questions for Ty, please put them in the comments. I forgot to say that at the start with all the shenanigans going on. what are some of the things that you would say people do in interview that will see them, not be considered? So some of those inadvertent things. What have you seen?
Okay, all right. So let's make it simple as possible, so that way people understand. So there's two parts of areas that people look for when they're hiring a person, which is one is from the technical point of view, can this person technically do the job that they're required? Now, it depends on how technical it is. The more the technical the job is, the more technical skills that they need to require. The second part, though, is the likability, the culture fit, right? So that can be, if the technical skills are very niche or harder to learn, harder to train, they're going to give a bit more weight to technical skills and have less on the culture fit, not as much, right? It's still going to need it, not as much. The other part is where roles that aren't as technical, they need culture fit and people, in terms of getting along with people, etc., is going to be more in demand than the technical skills. So the balance is trying to match both. If you can split you can showcase and show that you're both able to do the job very, at a high level technically, but you can also get along with the people. And when I'm talking about getting along, is showing that you're resilient, showing that you can communicate well, showing that you are able to talk about complex problems to people and demonstrate leadership skills, all those soft skills within that area. If you can do that and showcase both, that is going to help you be number one. So even if you're more of a technical person, try to aim for that culture fit as well, because you want to be liked. We hire people that we like to work with, or we hire people that we want to work with, because you're going to be sitting with them, they're going to be in your team or you're going to be in the company. You want to like working with them. But the main ones is a no-go, or people that I reject straight away with, or employers reject straight away, for example, is someone that doesn't know where they want to go in life.
Yeah.
So they have no idea why they're applying for this job, why they're applying for this company, what that future of, what is that plan that they have for themselves, and they're just applying for the sake of applying. Now, sometimes it's okay, depending on if it's like a contract, short-term assignment, etc., or short-term contract role. But if it's a permanent position, they're going to be they're going to be long-term in the position. They want to know why us? Why do you want to work with us? Because motivation is a very important factor that we look at. The other part is a lot of people just talk very general when they ask the question. They're not very specific in answering any of the behavioral questions or demonstrating any factual or things to back them up, to back up what they just said. And we always wonder how, or give me some more information, or they delve in, just give us a bit more. And what we do, we say that is that like I said, they're very generic, and they weren't able to dive deep in terms of how they would solve that problem. Because the more you can showcase and they go, okay, they've broken it down, it's easy, and they know exactly what they're going to do, the steps, the exact steps, then there's less training that is required from me. And if you think about it this way, if you think about, if you can showcase that you require the minimal amount of training, or no training at all, you are going to be the number one contender. Would you agree? Because
absolutely. Hit the ground running, or even, shape the role as well in some circumstances, but know what you're up against with that as well. So Ty, we're coming up to almost 45 minutes.
Oh wow, already.
I think it'd be great. Yeah, I know, it's gone quickly, hasn't it?
It has gone quickly, yeah.
Go Nate. So I think a great place to wrap things up is maybe just tell people where they can find you on LinkedIn or on your website, and seek out your services.
Yeah, sure. So you can follow me on my LinkedIn, so Tai Ngo, or Facebook, same name. My company is Careeris, so Careerists, and Careeris is actually a word, by the way, so you can look that up as
I
well.
didn't know that.
Yeah, it means someone that is very, like they're all about their career,
Yeah,
and they want to. They're so focused on progressing in their career. So that's what Careerist means. Yeah. So look that
fantastic.
up, and you can see all the stuff that I've done, and I do tons of videos and do tons of insights. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been absolutely wonderful. I'm sorry Naisha hasn't joined us, but anyway, hopefully it'll all be sorted for tomorrow. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe and hit the bell to be notified. If you're watching this on LinkedIn, please follow the hashtag Career Care Package. Tomorrow we're speaking to a recruiter who's recruited over 5,000 people. I'm going to share what insights she's discovered from that process, probably some absolute jaw droppers, I think. So please do join us for tomorrow, and enjoy the rest of this beautiful and sunny day in Melbourne. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.